Hey everybody! So today on Lessons with Dad, we're going to cook up some lovely pork chops. I'm going to show you how to do this. You see these are nice and thick. So we're going to butterfly them and then we're going to pan sear them. Get them all lovely and ready for our dinner tonight. Okay? So stay tuned. We're going to cook these puppies up. Everybody, so as we know, very first rule whenever we're going to be cooking, we got to wash those mitts. We have to be clean. Last thing we want to do is make somebody sick, including ourselves, because we moved some type of pathogen into our foods. We don't want to do that. So, wash those hands really, really good. Give us a good rinse. Again, don't want soap in our food. And then, dry off. So, for these pork chops, as you can see, these pork chops are fairly thick. They're boneless pork chops. Because of that, and the way we're going to pan cook them, they're a little too thick to cook through evenly, quickly enough for the application I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to safely change these into thinner pork chops that are going to cook up and be beautiful. First thing you want is your good chef's knife. Okay? Now, my knives, I always keep sharp. Matter of fact, this board that I have right here already has a sharpener already on it, so I can keep it like a razor. Now, with that in mind, keep your fingers out of the way. You can easily injure yourself with this. So what we're going to do is, you see how this pork chop has this lovely row of fat right here on it? We are going to cut towards it and we're going to open it up, kind of like a butterfly's wing, which is why this is called butterfly. And the easiest way to do that is kind of get down low, place this hand over top the pork chop, put your knife on the other side, and just cut across evenly. Let the knife do the work. Now, you do not want to cut all the way through. If you need to, because you see this pork chop's kind of long, work it from both sides. Okay? So you're going to want to cut it like this so it's going to open up. Now you see it's still got a little bit on the ends. We can just go ahead and do like this. See? That pork chop is what's called butterflied now. So it's going to lay in the pan just like that. So let's do our other two. Again, we'll move that one out of the way. We'll get the one we're going to work on over. Now you want to try to cut this as evenly as possible. As I said, keep your fingers out of the way. You don't want to cut yourself working on this pork chop. Just in case though you should hurt yourself, I always keep Band-Aids in the kitchen. But I find if you do this slowly, in this case, this pork chop has a bit of fat on the end. We're going to cut it off. If you work slowly with your knife work, you won't cause any injuries. So see? And you can see I made got a little too close on one side. That pork chop made a little hole in. It's not going to bother it. Don't worry, you haven't ruined anything. You're just fine. If at the end of the day you eat this and it's tasty, it's a good chop. And that's all that matters. Okay? Now again, as you can see, this pork chop has a little bit of fat on the end. I'm going to cut it off and just take it out of the way. Again, hand, fingers out of the way. And then work your way in slowly and gently. Keep an eye on where your blade is. Keep an eye on where your hand is. You do not want to cut your fingers. we've talked about before on the show, safety is paramount. Both food safety and our safety. We don't want to eat anything that's going to make us sick or make anyone else sick. And we don't want to do any unsafe cooking measures which could cause us any problems. Now, we have our chops cut. Have a piece of paper towel. This is why. This is a spot you don't see many people talk about, but if your meat it may be a little damp, what you're going to want to do before you season this is to pat it dry. Now let me get another. I use paper towels just because they are, usually I'm not a person for, throwing things away, but in this case, I don't want anything that may have been on my dish towel before to wind up in our food. So we just give that a pat. Now while this is happening, you want to take your frying pan, which is how we will be cooking these, and set it to just a little above medium heat. And give it just a little bit of oil. Now I am a lover of cast iron, as you know. Anyone who has watched this show knows how I feel about cast iron cookware. So we're going to warm that up. Now, again, because my hands now have been all done up with pork chop juice, I'm going to wash them again because I'm going to be grabbing a hold of my salt and pepper shaker, and I do not want to leave anything cross-contaminate back and forth. So yes, it really is a point. You will see that commercial kitchens always have a hand washing station in the kitchen. The reason why is because it is important for chefs to keep themselves clean. It's important for you as a home cook to do the same. So, salt, pepper. We're going to give a liberal seasoning to both sides of these pork chops. I know what you're going to say, but pork is already salty. No, not really. And since you're going to be cooking it without it being processed in other ways, you're going to need that salt to bring out some of that flavor. And don't worry, we're going to have one more secret at the end. Now, take our pieces here, flip them over so that we can season the other side. And again, nice looking frying for salt. Now in my case, I use a salt grinder, so I use sea salt. Because of it, it's a little bit coarser, I can actually see it going onto that pork. Now, let's head on over to our stove so we can put this on. Now that we're here at our frying pan, see we have our butterfly. Now what I tend to do is kind of move the oil around a little bit first. Put that right down in the pan, just like that. Let me get another one. Now, I don't know if you can hear that. That sizzling sound is perfect. If it does, it should sound like the pan is clapping for your food. Because that tells us that we've got the right heat, we've got the right sear. Now, as you can see though, these butterfly chops are so large, I can actually only cook 2 at a time. So our third one is going to wait just a little bit. Now myself, because I do not like our pork chops or anything to damage our pan or to be poked or prodded, we're going to go ahead and be using instead of tongs. So we can get under them and turn them over when the time is. We don't want to lose any of that good juice on the inside. Now we'll go ahead and let these cook for a little bit. As you can see, I've got my sides working. I've got some canned corn, some canned green beans. This makes for a lovely dinner, real easy for us. And we're gonna let these cook for a bit. Don't worry about messing with them or anything else. We want them to cook all the way through, or at least I should say half of the way until we flip them over on the other side. Okay? So we'll be right back. See, we've had our pork chops cooking probably about 4 minutes so far. Now they're ready to flip over. This one is not wanting to go down, but it will lay down as it cooks a little bit more. So now we'll give these a few more minutes and then we'll check them for temperature. Right now, as you see, we flipped it over before. We've got a nice even cook on both sides. Now, here's the important thing, temperature. Pork is done at 145 degrees. So what you want to do is you want to stick this thermometer into the thickest piece of meat all through. You see, we're actually well over. So that 5 degrees won't really matter. We're going to stick that over there. As long as you are in good and close, and again, we're going to stick this in the thickest part of the meat. And again, we are well within temperature. So, while we have this, let's go ahead and throw on our other one. And we'll get it cooking. You can just let those other chops rest right where they are. And in a few minutes, I'll show you what we're going to do, what secret we're going to do to get some little extra flavor out of these pork chops. And we've gotten our meat cooked. We're gonna make a sauce. Now this is chicken broth. Yes, I know we're making pork chops, but this is chicken broth and honey, 50-50 each. Total, you're gonna want a little over half a cup. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna place this in our pan. Now we've taken our pan, we've wiped it out. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna place this in our pan that we've reduced down to medium heat. Now the reason for this is, of course, we want to get our sauce to reduce. You have to forgive the sound, that is my cat Gabby. She is a loudmouth. So, we're just gonna stir this around a little bit. I said let this cook till it reduces by about 50%. It'll start to thicken. That's when we know our sauce is going well. Okay? So let's just wait for this to happen. You see now we're starting on the small bubbles. I don't know if you can see this in here. That's just what we want to have happen. What we're doing is reducing means we're reducing down the amount of liquid. We're concentrating the flavor. So the sweetness of the honey, the flavor of the chicken broth, which, like I said, is going to make our sauce. So just let this reduce down. And once this really starts going, it's going to happen fairly quickly. So I'm kind of keeping one eye on it. Now, everybody, I know you're loving these shows. I can tell by the number of views it's getting. What I need you to do is go ahead, hit that subscribe button, smash that bell so you get notifications when we put out new videos. I know you're going to want to watch our next one. I know I don't usually do this, but we're getting ready to make a family trip. And I know a lot of you have turned that age where you're getting your first cars. So you need to know how to do things like check your oil, check your air filter, check your tire pressure, all those things you want to do before you make a trip. So watch for our next video. We're going to go Lessons with Dad is going to leave the kitchen and give you some basic things to look out for when checking out your car. Okay? Now let's get back to finishing up this sauce. As you can see, we're really kind of bubbling good now. Give it a little stir just every once in a while. We're still waiting for it to thicken up just a little bit more. That honey is going to help with that, okay? So we'll just wait for it just a little bit longer here.
Explain that fact about the honey that crystallizes.
Oh, so my editor and cameraman wanted you to explain, because some of the honey that I have in my kitchen is a bit older, which is fine. Honey, when it gets, is one of the few foods that literally will not rot. It crystallizes into sugar. There have been honey found still completely wonderfully edible in tombs in Egypt from the pharaohs. So honey is a great long-lasting food, and I like to use this as a natural sweetener, and honey and pork really go together well. So that's why one of the things, you can keep honey. Honey sugar is fantastic. So don't worry if you've had a jar of honey that's been sitting up on your shelf for the last 6 months and you can see that the bottom or the top is crystallized. That's great. You can mix it back into the honey or just eat it itself, but be careful. Now, see here, like I said, we're getting this, it's cooking down. It's becoming a little bit thicker. We're gonna let it keep moving. You can kind of see as I go through it with my spoon, I leave a trace, an open spot. That shows you how much thicker this is getting. So now we're gonna go and turn the heat off. One of the great things with any sauce, to finish it, is butter. So we're gonna take a couple of pads of butter. We're gonna have the heat turned off, and we're gonna put these right in. And we're gonna stir this in. Now the fats from the butter are going to help make this into a sauce and make it a little bit thicker for us. Plus give it that feel on the mouth that we really like. There, now we've gotten that butter all incorporated in for our sauce. Let's go ahead here and plate up. Here's our lovely pork chop, all ready to go. As you see, we've got a nice bit of cornbread, green beans, roasted corn, and last but not least, our lovely pan sauce that we created. I'm just going to take a spoonful of this and spoon that over top of our pork chop. And there we are, all ready for dinner. Now, once you enjoy this, leave me feedback, let me know what you thought. This is another one of our great dinners that can be done. As you see, we've only taken about 30 minutes. So enjoy and have a great meal.